recorder.
It's all yours. Go ahead.
All right, welcome everyone to the Wetlands Commission meeting of Monday, October 17th. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Will the secretary take the roll, please?
Certainly, Mr. Stepanek. Mr. Stepanek,
Here.
Ms. Jameson here, Mr. Perkins,
Here.
Mr. Sillo,
Here.
Ms. Brunali,
Here.
Ms. Woike,
Absent.
Ms.
Right now.
Sanford,
Who?
Ms. Sanford, Beth Sanford.
Yeah, she's here.
I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Owsley.
Here.
Thank you. So just Ms. Woike is not in attendance.
All right, thank you. Before we go to the approval of the agenda, there may be some of you on the commission that had not heard that Peggy Kirby has resigned from the commission effective October 1st, okay? I understand she's either sold or selling her house and going to move out of the city. And I want to thank her. I want to thank her for the almost 15 years that she served on the commission. And I know you wish her, we all wish her well, and we're going to miss her. We're going to miss her. So Peggy is now resigned, and so we'll move on to approval of the agenda. Are there any comments, deletions, or suggestions for the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, before you move on, you have two regular members absent. I didn't know if at this point in time you wanted to seat your two alternates, Katie and Beth, for the absent regular members.
Yeah, I would. Thank you for reminding me. Beth, will you fill in for Priscilla?
Yes.
And we have a vacancy, so Katie, would you fill in for the vacancy that we have? Yeah,
Yes.
thank you. Does anyone have any comments regarding the agenda? If not, can I hear a motion? George is making the motion,
So moved.
and and Angela's gonna second.
Second.
Approval of the minutes of the regular meeting, September 19th. Again, any comments, deletions, suggestions? If not, can I hear a motion? I'll make the motion. Who's seconding it? Any?
I will, Beth Sanford.
Bad transfer. All right, thank you. And let me see here. We got Andy, I'm sorry. You all have a copy of the site visit minutes of October 12th. Any comments, deletions? If not, can I hear a motion? We'll give it to Anthony. You make the motion, and Beth Brunelli, you second it?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to abstain from voting on the site visit minutes, as I didn't attend the official site visit. I did my own site visit.
All right, thank you. Anyone else going to abstain?
Dan, I approve of them except for item 1, at which I was not present.
Anyone else? That was Beth that said that, Kathleen. So we will now open the regular meeting. Applications to be received, and if complete, scheduled for regular meeting on November 21st, and there are no applications. All right, before we move on, there may be some people in the audience that are expecting a presentation on agenda 10 that we have, item 10 in the agenda. But there will be no presentations. Let me read what the item 10 is. It's application number 22-2311-7-11, 17 and 23 Hill Street 72. And the application requests approval of regulated activities associated with the 93-unit residential community development. So we will be discussing a public hearing for this later on, but there will be no presentations from the applicant. So I want to make sure everybody in the audience that tuned in and expected that to happen tonight, a presentation, it won't happen. Okay, our first application to be presented tonight is application number 2223 -7 Ponus Ridge Bridge, number 05002, Town of New Canaan. And the gist of the application is to rehabilitate the existing bridge. I have Agent Sean Laudati.
Correct. I'm present. Yeah. So with BL
okay.
companies.
Are you going to make the presentation, Sean?
Emma Lane from our office will be. She's on right now.
Who is?
Emma Lane from,
I
from
see.
BL
Okay,
companies.
I see Emma. Okay. Emma Lane, you are going to make the presentation for this, right?
Yes.
Okay, you have the floor. Okay.
Okay. Is the screen sharing correctly?
We can't hear you, Emma.
Is the screen sharing correctly?
Well, I didn't hear the question.
Yes, you're all set. The screen is
Okay.
sharing.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. My name is Emmeline, and I'm a senior engineer with BL Companies. And this is the presentation for State DOT project number 89129. It's the rehabilitation of bridge number 5002, which carries Ponus Ridge Road over Collins Pond in the town of New Canaan. The bridge is located approximately 2,000 feet south of the intersection with Reservoir Lane. At the bridge site, the flow from Collins Pond travels southwest under the structure. And just upstream of the bridge, there's a stone masonry dam at the south end of Collins Pond that conveys water over a spillway and under the bridge. Just downstream of the bridge, the channel branches into two directions around a small island with a residential home. The site is located within a FEMA floodplain and floodway. And the bridge consists of a single span structure, which was constructed in 1957 with an ADT of 1,560 vehicles. The bridge consists of a reinforced concrete slab superstructure supported by reinforced concrete abutments with flared wing walls. The drainage area to the site is approximately 5.2 square miles. The existing bridge is classified as an intermediate structure and is hydraulically inadequate since it does not provide the required 1 foot of underclearance or 1 foot of freeboard. The 100-year design storm elevation is under pressure flow and provides 0.8 feet of freeboard to the roadway low point. The bridge itself is functionally obsolete with an overall evaluation of 3, which means it's in poor condition due to the deck geometry, which has no shoulders. Ponus Ridge Road is posted with a weight restriction due to the strength of the superstructure, which prevents some of the town's fire vehicles from using the bridge. The top left photo shows a stone masonry dam, which is located approximately 50 feet upstream of the bridge. The bottom left photo shows the driveway bridge at 1528 Ponus Ridge Road. We also have photos of the approaches, which contain the posted weight restrictions. And this slide shows the current posted weight restrictions, the top of the roadway, the deck, and a typical abutment. The proposed work will replace the superstructure, and there will be minimal roadway work. The horizontal alignment will be maintained, and there'll be a minor raise to the increased alignment, to the vertical alignment of 0.03 feet. There will be no work within the wetlands or the watercourse. There will be slight modifications to the existing abutment seats to accept the new superstructure, and the proposed bridge will remain hydraulically inadequate, and the low chords will be maintained. The bankfall width of the channel is 40 feet, and the channel is lined with cobbles, and the embankments are horizontally and vertically stable. The curb to curb width will increase to accommodate two 10-foot travel lanes with shoulders. There are minor decreases in the water surface elevation upstream of the bridge, but there are no changes downstream. The low chords will remain the same, and the roadway low point will be slightly raised. The proposed bridge will remain hydraulically inadequate with pressure flow during the 100-year design event and 0.8 feet of freeboard, which matches the existing condition. There are no wetland or watercourse impacts within the proposed work area, and the total impacts of the upland area is around 4,000 square feet. Minimal inland wetlands and watercourse impacts are anticipated due to the lack of substructure work. The debris shield will be installed above the 2-year storm elevation and will be removed prior to any large storm events. A debris boom will be installed downstream of the bridge. Required permits include the Town of New Canaan Inland Wetland Permit, the Army Corps Self-Verification Notification, the DOT Flood Management General Certification, and the Town of New Canaan Floodplain Management Permit. As noted earlier, the bridge is located within a FEMA floodplain and floodway. There are no changes to the water surface elevation or the velocity within the 10 and 100-year floodplain or floodway. Deep Fisheries reviewed the project in May 2020 and found that a replacement will have minimal impact on fisheries resources. They also noted that any unconfined in-stream work within the watercourse will be restricted between the period from June 1st to September 30th. According to the June 2022 NDDB map, the project is not located within an area of state and federal listed species concern, and consultation will be completed with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services for the northern long-eared bat. The project is anticipated to be completed in 2023, and the project construction cost will be $840,000, funded with 80% federal and 20% state funds. The design goal of the project is to restore structural adequacy. And this concludes the presentation, and Sean Ladowdy is also on the call, and we can help you answer any questions.
Oh. Yeah, this is Dan. Did you mention how old that bridge is?
The bridge was constructed in 1957.
43?
I'm sorry.
It was 1957. It was constructed.
65 years old.
65 years old. Is that about the about as much as a bridge will last, 65 years, or has that lasted longer than it should, or not as long as it should?
So typically in designing bridges, we typically design to a 75-year lifespan. So it is slightly less than what is typically designed for. I don't necessarily know the reasoning for the reduced strength, but in this situation, the substructure is in good condition. It really, like the abutments itself. So Those are in good condition. Really, it's the superstructure is the issue, the deck and the load rating for the structure.
So this is Angela Jameson. What would happen if this bridge were not redone in the next 5 years, say?
I mean, the superstructure could continue to get worse, or you know, the load rating of it can worsen, and then it could be more restricted weight restrictions on the bridge and could limit more vehicles from crossing it.
We're already weight restricted, so our fire apparatus can't travel it. You know, we have to travel in the middle, so it's not necessarily an option to wait.
Okay, so thank you for that clarification, Tiger. Do you have any sense of the extent to which fire vehicles are prevented from taking the quickest route to a fire because of the restrictions?
You'll have to ask that again.
Do you have any sense of the extent to which fire vehicles are unable to take the fastest route because of the weight restriction on this bridge?
You're talking about the detour itself?
Yeah.
We had studied that. I don't have that information off the top of my head. I didn't understand that it might be a question here, but you know, because in our minds, the decision as to whether or not to do the bridge has already been passed. But we had worked with the fire department on what their routes are and where their apparatus, certain apparatus can travel, certain apparatus can't. So, and given the fact of where we are, the detour is quite extensive to try to get around.
It would be, yeah, it would be the same detours in construction where you would turn right onto Greenlee Road, then turn left on, I can't remember the road over there, then turn back onto Daniel Road.
No, I see that. So another question, I was interested that I think you said that the new structure will remain hydraulically inadequate. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. There won't be many changes to the hydraulic adequacy.
Okay, was that something that was considered?
Yeah, so when typically for these type of projects, it starts off in a rehabilitation study report. So as part of that, we reviewed replacements and alternative options. And in order to create a hydraulically adequate bridge, it created large impacts to the surrounding properties around it. You know, this situation with this bridge is right next to two adjacent driveways. It does kind of hinder what we could do without greatly impacting those properties. So that was all in consideration, and part of the reason why this was selected.
There were several versions we went through, and the complete replacement, which is what you were alluding to before, as far as the 65-year, 75-year with just doing the superstructure. One, that the cost was exorbitant, you know, between the two choices, or three choices. And then the second was that the impacts to the surrounding neighbors, once we tried to get to that point where we would, you know, where it would be I'll say a perfect bridge, the impact to the neighbors was quite extensive. Where, you know, the profile of the bridge changes, it raises in height, you know, so your surrounding neighbors are starting to look at much more of a structure rising up out of the ground versus what they've been used to. It greatly impacted specifically some of the neighbors downstream, so to speak, or you know, to the western edges of the project itself. And it became to the point where, one, cost, two, extensiveness of time to exactly do it, because it would be longer than one season, it gets into 2 seasons, and then the impact to the neighbors, the surrounding neighborhood, the neighborhood itself, because it wasn't just the bridge. We would be looking at quite a distance up and down the road to actually raise the profile of the road. So the cost would started to get crazy, and the bridge started to rise up out of the ground, and to the point where we said, no, we'd rather leave it in a saddle, leave it to exactly the way it was. It might be slightly hydraulically inadequate, but it still satisfies everyone's concerns, and we're able to get rid of the load restriction that we have at present and bring us back to normal, so to speak.
Tiger, what is the maximum weight that this bridge can handle, would you say?
At present?
No, the new bridge. Or this one, both of them?
So the new bridge will be designed to full vehicles, so that would be the HL 93. But for this one, it depends on your truck type of what your load rating is. So it depends on if you're, a single unit box truck, which would be a 13 tons. A truck with a trailer is 20 tons, and then if you have a dual trailer, it's 35 tons. But that's typical. I don't have it on the top of my head about how that relates to the fire apparatuses, but that's typically how it's listed on your signs.
So what did you say? I'm sorry, I didn't get, the 13 tons is the maximum
Yeah.
weight that, let's say the new bridge can handle? Is that what you said?
No, that's for the
13
old
tons?
bridge. The new bridge will be designed that it'll be able to pass any rated. The new bridge will be designed so it'll pass all rated vehicles. I was listing the ratings of the existing bridge. Emma, if you go to slide 8, it has that picture of the weight limits. Yeah, so in the upper left corner, that is the current weight restriction. The new bridge will allow all vehicles to pass.
I have a question. This is Beth Sanford. What is the expected lifespan of the updated bridge?
It would be designed to a 75-year lifespan. The existing superstructure is, I believe, rated a 6, which for DOT is considered like right below good. But with our repairs to it, there's some minor repairs we are doing above the water that would bring it back up to a 7, which would anticipate the 75-year lifespan.
So Sean and Tiger, just a quick question. Basically what we're saying is we're not changing the look of the bridge, the structure of the bridge, we're not raising the bridge. We're basically doing the bridge exactly the way it looks now, except that it can handle more weight, correct? It can handle our fire apparatuses? The appearance of the bridge will be slightly different. There will be, because right now what you're seeing on your screen is non-MASH compliant bridge rail. So because this will be a new bridge, we do have to meet the new standards. So the bridge would have a 3-tube bridge rail on a curb mounted, and then it will have on one end where you're looking on the top road where that mailbox is, that will not have guide rail because you don't have space in order to put the guide rail plus the end treatment. So that will have a curved barrier wall, which will curve outside of the clear zone. The other 3 corners of the bridge would have end blocks, and then it'll have steel back timber guide rail.
Right, so it's gonna actually look nicer, because right now you're looking at a.
No, yeah, you
rail.
can see basically a concrete barrier, Tiger, basically a nicer rounded concrete barrier around instead of the guide rails.
Well, it's also stone faced, so.
It will be stone cladded, correct.
So it's
Right.
gonna be, if you've looked at, what we try to do is if you looked at Hickok or Mariomi, Hickok specifically, you would see exactly what, what we're trying to attack at that regard, where it's a stone cladded, and then the railing is upgraded, as he mentioned, and then any of the guide rail is actually the Merritt Parkway with steel backing. Instead, we don't do galvanized, and Core 10, we wanted to upgrade to the Merritt Parkway rail. So what you see here, that's the nicer profile, and that's almost the standard that we've been going to for almost all of our bridges.
This is George Perkins for the record. Just a quick overview on how you're going to route the traffic around during construction.
So for that, it will be closed during construction, and it will be detoured. It will follow that similar detour right now for the load restriction. Let me just pull up the map quick.
Thank you.
Sorry, 1 second.
Any other question? Any other questions, comments?
I have one question.
So
This is
could you bring that weight limit sign? Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
This is Commissioner Brunelli. I just had one question. I appreciate that this design will make a significant public safety improvement by allowing fire vehicles to pass over it. And there's a lot of competing considerations. My question just is, 75 years is a long span of time. How confident are we that the hydraulic inadequacy of the current and the new design will be the right decision going forward for 75 years?
I'm not really sure how to answer that, but just because I can't predict on which way we're going. So we are designing it to what is required from the department standpoint. And that's kind of how we are where we are. The 100-year design storm can increase in the future as obviously storms are changing, but we can't necessarily predict that at this time.
This bridge is 80% funded by the federal government through their program run through the state of Connecticut. So we're adhering to both. We have to adhere to the state requirements and the federal requirements. These are not guidelines from the town being set. These are guidelines by the federal government being set, telling us. And then based upon the analysis that was done, the choices that were made were also choices that were determined by the DOT and by FHWA. So we didn't make this in a box, so to speak, or in a silo. All these decisions were actually made at a higher level than us, saying this is the way that they feel that the bridge should go. Our main concerns were aesthetics, to be perfectly honest with you. Lifespan, yes, but aesthetics were most important for us, specifically given the fact that we knew we were going to be designing a bridge that would last for 75 to 100 years and would be adequate for the situation that we're in, the conditions that we're in.
If there's no follow-on question to that, I had another question. You say there won't be any work within the wetlands or watercourse, but is there a risk of debris flowing into the river?
There will be a debris shield underneath the superstructure during demolition and construction of the bridge. I think Emma mentioned before that it will be the contractor's responsibility to ensure that if there is a bigger storm than what elevation that debris shield is at, that they remove it and make sure everything is clear out of the way to make sure that nothing does get into the water course. And then, typical sediment erosion controls will be on this site, silt fences and any other protections to make sure that any of the silt wouldn't get in there as well.
Thank you.
I'm assuming this is the first of a kind bridge like this in the town of New Canaan. Is that true?
No. We have the bridge design or the standard that we try to adhere. One, we have to adhere to the federal government standards, as I mentioned, the DOT standard, but two, the look and feel of it is exactly what we've been trying to accomplish through Old Norwalk Road, the bridge to the wastewater treatment plant, Lakeview Avenue, Hickok, Mariomi, Jelliff Mill, at least 6 that I have off the top of my head.
West Road.
West, thank you, West Road. The only 2 that were done prior to the design was done prior to my tenure here, or Mike Pastor's tenure here, was Dan's Highway and North Wilton Road, and those have galvanized metal beam mail and I have concrete abutments, but those were done in the late 90s, 98, 99. Everything subsequent to that has been done with stone cladding and either a darkened rail or the Merritt Parkway rail itself, the wood-backed Merritt Parkway rail. So this is probably our 7th or 8th at present.
Dan, I just want to follow up to one of Kathleen Holland for the record, Angela's question regarding the debris field and debris shield. In addition, the applicant also mentioned that they do have a floodplain management permit. That's also going to be put in place with this particular review. So as part of that floodplain management application, they are required, the contractors are required to make sure that there's no equipment or anything left in the floodway while they're undergoing their construction activities. So I think Sean touched on it a little bit, that they will nightly remove materials that potentially could become floatable. So I just wanted to add that there's extra precautions taken because they are working in a flood zone area.
Correct, and also this would be part of the public health drinking water section as well, which does have those same requirements where there would be no fueling or servicing of vehicles. So there is those restrictions on the contractor that they wouldn't be working in this watershed that way.
Mr.
Kathleen?
Chairman, if
Yeah,
there's
go
no
ahead.
further questions or discussion, I would move that we accept the proposal as presented.
Kathleen, any special conditions for this?
I honestly do not think there would be any. A lot of the conditions that are typical of a project such as this are incorporated into the actual design that will be done. I imagine Public Works will handle any kind of as-built and reporting and submittal for follow-up reports that come along with this type of project. So I honestly can't think of any that would be applicable for a wetland
Okay,
approval.
got it. George, you want to make a motion?
Yes, I move that we accept the proposal as presented.
Second.
Anthony seconds it. All those in favor, raise your hands. All those opposed? Motion's carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, application number 22-23-10, 677 South Avenue, Waveney Park. Waveney Park Conservancy is proposing to install multiple shrubs and ferns along both sides of the entry driveway to Waveney Park. Some of the landscaping activities are proposed in and near field located wetlands. Tiger Man, Director of Public Works.
Thank you very much. I was just going to share my screen just to kind of give you an overview of where we are. So this is a partnership with the Conservancy. The Conservancy went out and hired Catherine Herman Design to propose a master plan for Waveney Park, specifically the area south of the Waveney Drive. That's the purview of the Conservancy itself. And as you can see, they've got several areas A through H of this master plan that they'd like to see beautified or enhanced, I should say. And the Conservancy themselves chose the entrance drive as being one area where they would like to see some enhancement go forward and as part of this new master plan. They had a master plan originally back when it was first formed, and some of their work was, if you remember, that first work was to put in a portion of flexi paved trail from the mansion down the hill where we didn't have a trail at all, down to the four-way intersection at the bottom of the hill along Waveney Road, and then we extended that over two footbridges all the way out to South Avenue. So this is kind of in keeping with that view and that work to now that we've enhanced and beautified the trail system itself, but to actually do the entrance drive as it comes in into Waveney. So in partnership with the Conservancy, they hired Catherine Herman to give the master plan and then take the first phase, as you will, and then design some additional plantings along the entrance drive, specifically from South Avenue to the four-way intersection at the bottom of the hill before you head up, and then some work at the Lapham entrance as well. So in essence, to kind of, we always try to beautify the gateways into town as part of the Public Works Department, and here we're trying to beautify your approach into Waveney and try to bring it back up. Right now, it's it had no plan, it had no idea, and most of everything that had been planted was sort of a volunteer. So now we're looking at trying to have a more codified design, a more unified design, and I think they've done a very nice job of that. We had the wetlands flagged by William Kenny Associates, and our proposal, in essence, is to kind of stay out of any area that where there were wetlands. There's ample room up and down on both sides of the drive to work and to plant and to beautify. With that, I'd like to ask Maggie and Catherine from Catherine Herman's Designs to kind of walk you through what their plan is for this area. So I'll stop sharing and I'll let Maggie share and move it forward, if that's all right, Kathleen.
I did make them co-hosts, so they should, oh, there we go. Thanks, Maggie.
Yep,
Perfect.
there we go. All right. Thank you, Maggie.
Maggie, are you having trouble? No, we cannot hear you, Maggie. So let me see if I can make an adjustment here, but I don't think it's on my end. Maggie, if you have a headset in, unplug the headset and see if it works. You're unmuted, so we still cannot hear you, Maggie. Catherine, are you able to take over?
Yes, I am. Yes. So it's a little out of sync because I'm not controlling the screen, but what you see on the screen is the master plan that Tiger just alluded to. Maggie, if you can hear us, if you can forward to the next plan, that would be great. I mean, Tiger just spoke about us addressing the entrance both on South Avenue as well as the Lapham Road entrance. The idea would be to use native plant material to really simplify, as Tiger said, to codify sort of what's being planted there. The idea would be that at the south entrance, on the inside, meaning the far side, if you're turning in off of South Avenue, be backing those wing walls would be rhododendron maximums as well as viburnum dentatum, the blue muffin. And what would be on the inside that you see as you turn in would be the ferns. So it would be the autumn fern, and which are on those. So you can kind of see, yeah, Maggie's doing this. So there you see the backing of the Maxi rhodes as well as the viburnum. And then on the inside, it's just all ferns. So very, very simplified. This is meant to be a very native palette of plant material. As we go up the driveway, the palette, maybe we can just talk broadly about what the palette is. It's a mix of rhododendron, different types of rhododendron. We've got the rhododendron vasii, rhododendron mucronulatum, the rhododendron paramycoides, rhododendron prunifolium, rhododendron schlippenbachii, and rhododendron viscosum. So it's a real mix of, these are all, you know, for the most part native. I think there are only 2 that are not native rhododendron. So they're, for the most part, deciduous. The rhododendron maximums are evergreen, but all the others are deciduous, and they've got great fall color. So, and beautiful flowers, as well as many of them are fragrant. So something really lovely. And the idea is that they're all underplanted with the 2 types of ferns. It would be the autumn fern as well as the hay scented. And hay scented especially is a colonizing fern. So the idea is that once it gets established, it's going to fill in and really sort of be a beautiful underplanting of these shrubs. And then we're essentially repeating on Lapham. We're essentially repeating the same planting on the backside. And what we've done is, what Maggie's flipping through is all the segments, the planting for all the segments along the driveway. So you can see how those plantings are done with the drifts of the ferns planted underneath all the shrubs. I'm looking to stay out of the wetland. These are each segments coming up that driveway. So we're not disturbing any of the existing, you know, trees that line the roadway. The idea is to take advantage of the openings that exist there along that driveway. It's to really just kind of, you know, fill it in, add some interest, color, scent, fall color.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Kathleen Holland, just one quick question. What's the
Sure.
timing? Are you hoping to do the fall planting now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, we went out to bid. We received several bids. Now we're just working through each contractor, making sure that the plant material is available for them, and what their expected time frame would be. The majority that the plant materials available, and they will be looking at starting within the next 3 weeks. Obviously, it's got to go to the Board of Selectmen for approval. And then once that happens, they would come out and take care of the work. Yeah, I think it should be noted that it's somewhere on the order of, you know, close to 10,000 ferns looking to be planted, and a couple hundred plants themselves. So it's quite an extensive plan. The Conservancy's done a very nice job. Catherine and Maggie have done a really nice job on this plan, and we think it'll be a very nice enhancement to the entrance drive coming in off of South Avenue.
Thank you, Tiger. Yeah, what's up on the screen, you can see the quantities that, with the ferns and rhododendron that Tiger just mentioned.
And this is George Perkins, for the record. What about invasive plants? Is there a plan to take care of those?
This plan, honestly, this plan is just addressing planting new plants.
But I was thinking along the way.
Yeah, I mean, personally, what I have observed is that there tend to be more invasives along the trails as you go into the woods. Very interesting. I think along that driveway, there's actually, you know, from what I have observed, not a lot of invasive plant material, but I suppose if we came across it, it could be removed.
Thank you.
This is Angela Jameson. Will all this work, the plantings, be done by hand, or are you going to employ some equipment?
I would imagine they're doing it by hand. You know, hand digging. These are not, you know, these aren't terribly large, you know, shrubs. So you can see the sizing that we've got there. I think maybe the largest is like a number 5, which is a 5-gallon. So it's, you know, mostly 3 gallons, 5 gallons, you know, and then there would be some that would be sort of a ball and burlap at 4 to 5 feet in height. So, or 3 to 4 feet. And because they're scattered, it's really handwork, hand digging.
This is Beth Sanford. The plan looks really beautiful. I guess you kind of have a little bit of time pressure to get it in before the frost or before it's really cold. What's the ultimate like restriction for considering it the planting?
I mean, I think it would be nice to get it in sooner rather than later to allow some of this material to establish, to have some ability to establish before winter sets in. I believe we put in a specification that this should have certain anti-desiccant spray as well, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Tiger? I think we did.
That's correct.
Just to protect it from, you know, winter winds and things like that.
And what does the park do in terms of irrigation if what happens this next year happened this year?
This would be watered. I think we've talked about that as well. I believe the town has a truck, a watering truck. So the idea is that they could drive along that roadway and water that way.
Right. We have several. We actually have 2 large watering trucks and then 1 small gator. The gator, actually, you've seen him out in the hanging baskets. He's out. We're out 7 days a week, 6 to 7 days a week, watering hanging baskets, or 3 to 4 days a week, and then every other planting that we have over a 2-year period. So anything that was planted last year was still watered again this year, and then we'll do the exact same thing with anything that was watered this year. We'll water for at least 2 years out. So the thought is that we'll water these in our normal course of operations.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'll break the silence. It's a beautiful plan. I'm really looking forward to seeing it in full bloom. I would move that we accept this proposal without, unless there's some considerations by Kathleen.
This is Dan again. I was on mute. Let me ask you this question. I'll ask the question again. What is the survival rate for these plants? In other words, I would assume you're not going to get 100% are going to live. If they do die, will you come back to replant others?
Tiger, do you want to answer that and that specification, or?
Yeah, the plants are guaranteed through at least one, replacement, provided that we water as we mentioned, but we'll be watering throughout. With anything, there is a die off. There's not much we can do about that. But as Catherine mentioned, some of the plants are actually the ferns themselves will actually help, and proliferate themselves. So I think that overall, while we might see some, the past plantings that we've done in and around Waveney and elsewhere, the die-off has been very insignificant. Granted, we have a lot of plants that we're planting, but the die-off has been very insignificant. It really comes down to the right material and the right, installer. And to that end, we actually went out specifically to 6 separate contractors, 3 that Catherine had worked with specifically, and 3 that the town had worked with specifically, and asked them for quotes, bids. So we didn't go out publicly per se. We went out basically on a performance base, a reference base, in past performance, I should say. So given that, I think that we're in good stead that that we'll see the majority of the plants survive.
George, did you want to say something?
It sounds like it's pretty explanatory for this whole plan, and the plan looks good. I mean, just from my knowledge of plantings from landscape and everything, it sounds like they're all guaranteed. So it sounds like as long as the town waters them and everything, it sounds good. I mean, in my opinion, Dan.
Well, my motion is still on the floor.
Yeah, George, I'll second it.
Dan, I think you're muted. We're moving to a vote.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, that's
Yes.
better.
Okay.
So George has moved that we approve the application, and Anthony has seconded it.
All those in favor of the application, raise your hand. All those opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Tiger.
Thank you.
Dan, if you just give me a minute, I'm going to allow William Kenny to share his screen, and possibly, let's see, Jim Kasudas, I believe, possibly. It does also need to share a screen. Jim, is that correct?
Bill's gonna do the heavy lifting, so
Okay. Bill, you're on. I do not see the owner on the call. I just don't want to leave him off if he's on the
That's
call.
correct.
Okay, all right. So
Correct.
Bill, William Kenny, and Jim Kasudas are here for the next item.
Application number 222308 Wheats 386 Wheat Street. Todd and Karen Holsom. Agent is William Kenny and William Kenny Associates. Yep.
Good
Who's up?
evening. I'm Bill Kenny. I'm the principal of William Kenny Associates in Fairfield, Connecticut. I'm a professional wetland scientist, soil scientist, and landscape architect. I'm here this evening with professional engineer Jim Kasudas. We're here on behalf of the owners of 386 Weed Street, Weed Farm. It's a 30-acre parcel on the west side of Weed Street. Share my screen. You see, here we're looking at the town GIS, and the parcel is outlined in red on here. And the owners, Todd and Karen Holson, they've owned the property since about in the fall of 2016. They purchased the property and really saved it from subdivision of, I think it could have been up to 8 different homes could have been built on the property. And now they're it's their home, and they are living there and also using the land for some farming activities. I believe many of the members are familiar with the property from other recent applications for the improvements at the property. And on the west side of the property is the Norotan River that flows north to south through the property. And there's another wetland and watercourse system on the east side that flows through where the property is much narrower. The focus of our presentation is for the western portion of the property. And in the northern portion of that area is a forested wetland. There's some forested upland on either side of it. And at the southern end of that is a pond that the owners were before you and just a couple of years ago to help restore that pond. South of that pond is a defined channel for the Norotan River. North of the pond, where the river flows through the wetland, this wetlands swamp, the river breaks up into several smaller channels, and the flow is spread out across the wetland. Going to show you. This is a plan that we submitted to you, and the proposal is the reason we're before you is ask for your permission to allow for the construction of a elevated wood boardwalk. This view of the property north is to the left. In the previous view, can you see?
We're still seeing the previous map.
Okay. Just bear with me 1 second here. I'm going to switch. So this is the planting plan. In this view, north is to the left. In the previous plan, north was to the top of the drawing. And so again, we have the forested wetland on the northern portion of this part of the site. And this map just focuses in on the western portion of the property where the Norotan River flows left to right or north to south. You have the small pond here in the southern end of the property, and then the river discharges through there through one channel, one primary channel. The proposal is for this elevated boardwalk that is shown in tan here that makes a curve through the wetland. The wetland is a woodland wetland. It's quite diverse. It has a good diversity of trees, shrubs, and ground cover. I have some photos that I'll share with you. These photos were submitted to your with our application material, and we're going to start looking at the upland area that's immediately west of the wetland. And this area the owner currently has access to without the need to cross the wetland. And they maintain this area. They use some small electric vehicles to gain access and allow them to maintain this area. But they do not have access to a similar upland woodland on the eastern side of the wetland. And this boardwalk would allow them to access that area for maintenance and enjoyment, and also allow them to observe and enjoy the wetland itself. So this is a view of the upland area to the east, another view of the upland area, and what it looks like with current access activities. You can see the hay-scented fern growing on the right. The wetland itself is just off to the right, and the boardwalk would enter the wetland just right of center in the background of the photo here. Then we have some photos of the proposed path through the wetland. And the boardwalk was carefully designed and located to avoid any significant trees. It's going to be moved, located so that shifted one way or the other to avoid trees. Right now, there's just 2 red maples that are proposed to be removed, and then a number of ash trees that unfortunately are dying due to the emerald ash borer. They're either dead or in decline. So total of 10 ash trees that are dead or declining that are proposed to be removed. In place of those, we're proposing to plant 18 new trees to replace those trees and help to maintain the forested habitat that exists today. So each of these photos are along the center line of the proposed boardwalk location and gives you an idea of the conditions.
I mean, it sounds like from what we looked at the site visit, that it's a well thought out plan that has a certain route going through it. And the boardwalk situation, just from my experience, it sounds like you guys are using the right material, especially for the foundation of the boardwalk. So, I mean, as long as you guys are using the diamond piers and there's a certain wood planking, looks like that's the wood planking system there.
Yes.
I mean, it seems like it's a well thought out situation. I mean, especially since you're trying to avoid some of the trees.
And I thank you for that. I could discuss a little bit more about the boardwalk construction if other members would like to learn a little bit about that. But we're proposing, these views are from the website of the manufacturer we're proposing to work with. It's a prefabricated structure. It has a tubular steel. You can see the tubular steel structure in the images here. It's very discreet. And then it's manufactured offsite, both the structure, the underlying structure, as well as the decking, and placed in lengths of about 8 to 10 feet long, which is really helpful to avoid impacts to the wetland, because you're not cutting wood and ending up with sawdust, or you're not using saws that maybe a chainsaw or something like that, where you could have discharges of fuel or something like that. All of the major construction is done offsite or in the wetland adjacent, in the upland adjacent to the wetland. And you place these structures in one piece at a time, and it allows you start at one end, put in a section, and just continue to move out. So your activity to provide access for materials and for labor, you're primarily working over these sections that you already built. So you have a really significant minimization of walking and accessing over the wetland soils. And as was discussed, we're proposing to use these diamond piers, which have a very small footprint. This is a small, approximately 1 foot square structure that is, these rods are drilled into the ground in 4 different directions to hold that foundation in place. And then the legs of that steel structure of the boardwalk sit right on top of that pier. So for this boardwalk, it's under 450 square feet of footprint, total footprint from the structure. And the structure will be elevated 2 feet above, about 2 feet above the wetland surface.
And this is Angela Jameson, what kind of equipment will you need to use to install the boardwalk?
It'll be done by hand and with small vehicles that'll drive on the boardwalk itself. So the farm owns these small electric vehicles that they use to maintain their property, and they are sized to be able to cross the boardwalk. And that's part of the reason to provide them access to the eastern portion of their property. If I'll go back to our map, and you'll see this, there's upland, a fairly large upland area here that they don't currently have access to. So with this boardwalk, they'll be able to have access to that and maintain and enjoy that part of their property.
But the installation itself will all be done by hand?
Yes, so they'll drive in on the existing road, the paths, the woodland paths that I showed you in the
Yes.
photos, they're right through this area here.
Yep.
And then, so they'll drive over to here and transport the sections of the boardwalk to here. They'll put in one piece of boardwalk, the steel structure below it. They'll start with the diamond piers, put the piers in to create that foundation, and then add the steel structure above that and by hand, and they'll put that in place and then put the decking down on it. And then they will slowly progress after they put down each new section. They'll install it completely and then just drive across that so they can bring in the next section by driving across the completed sections.
And so essentially the equipment will be the sort of, they look like golf buggies.
Yes.
Golf cart.
That's right. They're and you may have seen them when you did your site walk.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Angela, what we've done in the past is, I'm sure it's what they're gonna do, and you can go back to that previous slide where the diamond piers, you see the installation of it. Basically what you use is a electronic jackhammer, like a Hilti or something, and that's hooked up to a generator. So it's like no impact, or you can do that by hand. And then it seems like to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like all the cutting and all the everything's prefabricated.
Correct.
From what it seems like. So they basically bring them out on one of those buggies and install them on the diamond piers,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
Where, this is Beth Sanford. I'm just curious where the sugar maples are that you're gonna take down.
Oh, the red maples.
Oh, red maple.
Yep, swamp maples. Let me bring up another image here. This is the drawing prepared by Jim's office, and this was provided to you with the submission, and you'll see there are where you see a black X, those are the two red maples to be removed.
I see.
And then where the gray X's are, those are the ash trees.
Right. I'm just curious in terms of thinking about installing the boardwalk, is the number one objective a recreational one, or is it more to have the access for maintenance? Or is it hard to answer that question?
It's equal. They're both very important.
And the maintenance that you anticipate that the owners will be doing in terms of that area will involve what?
It's very similar to what you see in the photos earlier. You know, just to maintain the woodland to it's a light touch.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
I just have a overall comment, Kathleen Holland for the record. I think it's really important to know what Bill actually had mentioned. It's for a project of this size, which is fairly significant boardwalk crossing the wetlands. The overall impact is 450 square feet, which is roughly 20 by 20, a little more than that. That's pretty impressive. As I said in my staff report, they through their engineering techniques and Bill's advice, they have really devised a good plan with multiple installation considerations and construction techniques that really will limit the impact to the resource that we're trying to protect, with still being able to give the owner access to this really pretty unique area of the property and also able to maintain it. The only special conditions should the commission consider approval of this application would be an as-built upon completion of the construction activities to update their current survey to add this infrastructure on a plan.
So I think this is a well thought out plan. I think it's been carefully put together. It sounds as though it won't have a huge impact on the wetlands, and I would like to move approval of the application, subject to the special condition that the survey is updated on completion of the project.
I'll second it.
I think the chairman is on mute.
Dan, I think you
You
have to
can
unmute
unmute
yourself.
yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Wow. I've been trying to ask some questions.
Oh,
Anyway, I'm all fair, in favor of this. I think it's a very good plan, just like George said, and you know, and you've already made a motion, and who has somebody seconded it? George, you second it?
George is muted now.
Angela made the motion and George seconded it with a special condition that an as-built be required upon completion of the construction activities.
All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay. Anyone opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Oh, wow. Application number 222309, 188 Adams Lane. As Kathleen said earlier, this has been postponed to the November 21st meeting. Kathleen, do you want to add anything, or just we'll go from there?
No, as I had mentioned in my staff report, there are some outstanding items regarding this particular application for 188 Adams Lane. We had a very good meeting this morning with the staff had a good meeting with the applicant and his consultant to review some of those items. They are working on those items and decided to table for this evening in order to be able to get us some additional responses and reports prior to the November meeting. So stay tuned. We will just carry it over to the November 21st meeting. That's it for now. We'll add some additional items to your records online, so I'll let you know when those come in.
All right, thank you. All right, the last one on here is application number 222311, 17 and 23 Hill Street. And the application requests approval of regulated activities associated with a 93-unit residential community development. And I won't read the including things, but tonight all we're asking, well, I wanted to tell the commission that a petition of more than 70 signatures to hold a public hearing was received by the Wetlands Office in the past few weeks. So what we have to decide tonight is when that we want to vote on a public hearing, and then if everybody said yay, we're going to have it, and we are, and then schedule it. And I would assume we'll probably schedule it for November 21st.
Dan, is this public hearing going to be in person or Zoom?
What, you mean, what, a hybrid kind of thing or what?
I mean, I would just think that at this point, should we go to in-person meeting for a meeting
At
of
town
this?
hall, at town hall?
Yeah,
Yes.
Well-
Dan, there's just one issue. Beth Brunelli's raised her hand, so if she could actually just speak next regarding this before we go into the further discussion.
I'm sorry, Beth. Yeah.
That's fine. Sorry for the interruption. As you know, with the recent Hill Street matter heard by the commission, it was necessary for me to recuse myself due to a professional conflict. Given that this matter involves the same property, the same parties and/or anticipated parties, it is necessary for me to recuse myself again, both this evening and all matters going forward. So I'm going to log out from the remainder of the meeting.
All right, thank you, but I'm sorry to, I missed your hand that you wanted to speak.
That's
I'm
fine.
sorry. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about that. An in-person, in town hall meeting or a public hearing. Any discussion on this? Obviously, you're for it, Anthony. George, I think you raised your hand.
I just think it would be interesting, and if we are gonna do a public hearing, I mean,
Who's talking? Oh,
in-person
okay.
public hearing at this point, I mean, not this situation, not this specific applicant, but just in general, I mean, if we're gonna do a public hearing, which we haven't done in a while, it should be in person.
But there's an awful lot of interest in this, and a number of people will want to attend. I don't know if handling it by Zoom might be a little on the clumsy side, although I think our meetings have gone very well and very smooth and extremely smooth. But given the amount of interest this is generating, it might be in our best interest to do it in public, but a Zoom is fine. Either one is fine with me.
Oh, Priscilla, you're here. I see you down there. Okay. How long have you been with us? Have you been here since the beginning of, I know you weren't here at the beginning of the meeting. So when did you join us? I can't hear you, Priscilla. Yeah. Okay.
Priscilla had texted me that she was late for the meeting, but by the time she had texted, the two alternates had been seated. So she's an alternate tonight, and she has been sitting in on the meeting.
Yeah, I came in about 7:05.
You did. Oh, shoot. Okay. Anyway, you're an alternate, right?
Okay.
I see Christopher Smith there. Okay.
This is Angela Jameson. I can see merit in having an in-person meeting when we have a public hearing. I mean, Zoom is terrific, but I think you do miss a few things. I think it can also be a little clunky and, you know, lead to interruptions or pauses or whatever. It may be a good opportunity to, you know, go back and meet in person.
Also, Dan, I think you might be able to control the meeting much better by visually and recognizing people as opposed to having people jumping in and out
Yes.
on Zoom.
If you remember correctly, we took a vote on if we should continue with Zoom or go in person around June, May or June. And most of the commissioners thought the Zoom was the way to go. I personally, as chairman, I'm all in favor of an in-person meeting, and I agree with George 100% on that. You know, and I still agree. But if we do go to an in-person for the public hearing, the rest of the meeting is going to be there also. So the entire meeting would have to be in town hall on the 21st. Okay. Yeah. Any other discussion on in-person? Angela, you said, Beth, Sanford, do you have any?
I think it makes sense. It's an important public hearing, and I think to, get back engaged in person would be a good thing for the commission, and for the town.
Priscilla, anything?
I think on this particular matter, it's definitely important to let all the people come that are interested in in this particular decision.
But keep in mind, though, that this will not be the end of the public hearing. It may be continuing in December or even January. I don't know, but the next 2 or 3 would probably be in person at town hall. Yeah.
I think it'd be nice to start running these meetings in person anyway. I mean, that's just me. I'm sick of sitting in this empty room and looking at a screen.
I will say that one advantage of doing it via Zoom is you can actually see the presentations wherever you're sitting, because
That's
it's on
true.
the screen. So I think, and this comment is not relating to the public hearing issue per se, but I think if we do go back to having in-person meetings, we need to try and make sure that we can replicate extremely good visibility for everyone as far as, plans are concerned.
I don't think there's any question that we do hear better, and we can visualize much better with the presentations on Zoom. I think that is a major advantage. I would agree with you, Angela. I have new hearing aids now, so it doesn't. I won't be calling anybody out to speak louder.
Kathleen, do you have any comments? No?
The only comment I would have is, it's
Kathleen, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
The only comment I would have is it is completely the commission's decision on how they wish to go forward.
I can hear you, yeah.
The public, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Dan, can you hear me?
I
Dan,
can't
can
hear
you
you,
hear me?
Kathleen. Yes, I can. Now I can.
Okay. It is the
Can you hear
commission's.
me?
Yes. It's the commission's decision how they wish to go forward. Some of the boards and commissions have been doing the hybrid option of meetings. It is a logistical challenge to orchestrate running a Zoom meeting, being the technical person for the commission, and some people are in the room, some people are at home. It can be done. I've sort of put the town hall folks on notice that if we do go to a hybrid meeting in November, I will need assistance, and hopefully they will provide that for me if that's ultimately what your option is. There are several folks that will, travel from long distances, and so I think Zoom is sometimes a preferred method to be involved in a particular meeting. But if ultimately you decide that you wish to have an in-person public hearing on November 21st only, then that's what it will be. And just like we've done in the past, that's what we would, how the meeting would be conducted. So I guess for starters, is everyone available November 21st? That's sort of the first order of business. I did reach out to some of the folks to try to figure out who might be available, and it does seem like we have general consensus for November 21st that we could, the commission could hold a public hearing on that date to open the discussion.
Is there anyone that cannot make the 21st of November? Raise your hand, please. No one's raising their hand, Kathleen. So that's one, myself, George, Angela, Beth, Anthony, Katie, Priscilla. Who are we missing? Beth Brunelli won't be part of it. And we have 2 vacancies now that Peggy Kirby's resigned. Yeah.
You have a quorum.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. So we all can make it in person. Yeah. Is it, do we have to let the technical people know that we're going to take it in-house now? Is there anything we have to discuss with the technical people?
Sorry, so it's only channel 79. So yes, we would let channel 79 know that we'll be having a public hearing in person.
Yeah, yeah.
And of course, I'd let the applicants and there's 2 interveners on this particular application, so they'll be notified as well that we'll be having a public hearing on November 21st and be in person. And I'll work out some of the logistics as far as presentation, information, and communicating with everyone regarding, to make it as smooth as possible that everyone is able to see the presentation materials and hear them and so on and so forth.
All right, let's plan on that. Let's plan on an in-house wetlands meeting on November 21st in Town Hall, if we can. Has anybody taken the conference room in our absence, do you think?
No, I checked that. We have November 21st, or that's scheduled. It's our regular scheduled meeting.
Okay. Well, let's vote on taking going to a public hearing on November 21st. Can I have a raise of hands of the people that the commissioners that say yes to a public hearing on November 21st in Town Hall? Raise of hands. Is there anyone that doesn't want to? Or votes no? All right, Priscilla, Katie, Anthony, you okay with that?
Yeah, everybody voted.
Everybody voted, okay. And we'll schedule for November 21st, at least it's the start of the public hearings, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'll make sure I do the notices and whatnot that are required to be done.
And just for your information, everyone on the commission, that already we have 2 notices of intervention. 2 notices of intervention. So we have that to look forward to. Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Anything else?
I had a quick question.
Yes, go ahead.
And sometimes in other matters, when there's a public hearing, it's Katie Owsley. Can you hear me, Dan?
Yes, okay, go ahead, Katie, I'm sorry.
Nope.
Yes, I
Sometimes
can.
when there are other issues that have had public hearings, the meeting starts a half an hour in advance of its regular time because it's expected it will take quite some time. Is that something that should be considered?
So what are you saying, 6:30? I mean, what we've usually done, Katie, is that we sort of more or less cut it off at 9:30, 10 o'clock if it goes beyond that. So we don't go into 9 or 11 or 12 o'clock normally.
Got it. Got it.
I'll cut it off. If you just can't, after 3 hours or 2.5 hours, you can't concentrate. You can't. So I think we'll cut it off after 2.5 hours. Yeah. And continue it the next meeting. Yeah. But I would think that the public hearing, Kathleen, I would do it. I would have the public hearing first. Or no, let's you and I talk about that. Okay. Go ahead.
How many are on the agenda for the next meeting?
Well, you had 188 Adams Lane was carried over and Hill Street.
Okay, so it's only two, and I'm
Two,
sure
yeah.
that now that Kathleen has spoken to the people at Adams Lane, I'm sure they'll have their ducks in a row where it shouldn't be that long.
Yeah. Any other questions? Any other comments about that? All right, so once again, we'll go to in-house wetlands meeting on November 21st, beginning at 7 o'clock. And if there's no other comments, Kathleen, any comments on permit number 2223, 62 Ludwell Road?
No, just a administrative wetland application was applied for and issued for a complete renovation of a home existing at that location, most of which involves some refurbishment of decks and some infrastructures around the property. A permit's been issued, and they'll be applying for their building permit, I would say shortly.
All right, thank you. Any other comments about anything else? Any other business you want to discuss? I see it's 8:30 already.
I have a question.
Yes, Priscilla.
If it's Hill Street and the other one that we just went to, it
Yep.
does not look like there would be a site visit this month then?
That's true.
Correct, no site visit.
Any other?
It was good to see all of you. Can't wait to see everyone in person.
You know, perhaps we look more beautiful on Zoom. I don't know.
I had to put my filter on for me to look better on Zoom. In person, it's not so good.
At least I don't have to fool around with the unmuting over here. I got a new computer and I wish I didn't. Anyway. All right, can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting then? You all jump.
I'll motion.
All right, Anthony and George wants to second it. All
I
those in
sure
favor,
do.
we adjourn. Say aye.
Thanks, guys. See you soon.
All right,
All
thank
right.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Thank
Dan.
you.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, bye.